Good morning. This is the November 6, 2024 meeting of the Board of Estimates. It's now called to order. For those who are joining us today in person, we ask that you place your electronic devices off, but if not off, at least on silent so you do not disrupt today's proceedings. For those of you who are on live with us, we are having some slight technical issues. If there is an opportunity for someone to present us virtually, we will take it up then to ensure that we are A-OK from a technical perspective. At this time, I'll ask our amazing clerk, Ms. Celeste Amato, for any corrections, additions, or noted abstentions to today's agenda. Madam Clerk, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good morning, everyone. We have the following corrections to note this morning. SB 2414156. This is an acquisition by condemnation, Center Place roadway extension project for $2,165,000. Under impacted addresses, we are inserting the block and lot number, block 6991, lot 001. We have no walk-ons to note this morning. We have the following deferrals. Removing these items from the agenda for today. SB 2414076, Bureau of Procurement, 5th Extension Parking Enforcement for $735,000. This item has been deferred until November 20th at the request of the Comptroller. SB 2413909, Department of Transportation, TR 24011, resurfacing highways at various locations Northeast Sector 1 for $4,278,862. This item has been deferred to December 4th at the request of the Comptroller. SB 2413910, Department of Transportation, TR 24012, resurfacing highways at various locations Northwest Sector 2 for $3,979,404. This item has been deferred until December 4th at the request of the Comptroller. SB 2413912, Department of Transportation, award TR 24014, resurfacing highways at various locations Southeast Sector 4, P. Flanagan and Sons for $4,257,132. This item has been deferred until December 4th at the request of the Comptroller. SB 2413761, Department of Housing and Community Development Loan Modification, Reservoir Hill Limited 8. This item has been deferred until December 4th at the request of the President. SB 2414250, City Council proposed resolution on pilot agreements for the Board of Estimates. This item has been deferred until November 20th at the request of the administration. We have no withdrawals to note this morning. We have received protests and or statements for the following items. SB 2413632, Department of Transportation, award TR 24004, reconstruction of alleys citywide for $1,063,627.50. A protest has been received from J. Villa Construction, Inc. SB 2413629, Department of Transportation, award TR 24001, reconstruction of footways citywide for $1,355,120. A protest has been received from J. Villa Construction, Inc. And SB 2414287, a contract termination with the Baltimore Office of Promotion and the Arts. Statements of support and opposition have been received. We have a statement of support from Jessica Fessler and a statement of opposition from Angela Sims. We have the following items appearing on the non-routine agenda this morning. SB 2414243, Department of Audits Biennial Performance Audit of the Baltimore Police Department for the fiscal years ending June 30, 2023 and 2022. SB 2414115, Settlement Agreement and Release, Kevin Sample versus Mayor and City Council of Baltimore, Case 24C230043333MT for $30,000. SB 2413198, Department of Public Works Cooperative Agreement for the Solid Waste Infrastructure for Recycling Grant for $3,031,840. SB 2413632, Department of Transportation, award of TR 24004, reconstruction of alleys citywide to Santos Construction for $1,000,000. $63,627.50. And again, a protest has been received on this item from J. Villa Construction. SB 241369, Department of Transportation, award of TR 24001, reconstruction of footways citywide to Santos Construction for $1,355,120. Again, a protest has been received from J. Villa Construction, Inc. And SB 2414287, contract termination, Baltimore Office of Promotion and the Arts, Incorporated. A statement of support has been received from Ms. Jessica Fessler, who will present virtually. And a statement of opposition has been received from Angela Sims. Mr. President, that statement was received after the deadline, so we'll defer to you regarding any presentation by that citizen. We have the following abstentions to note this morning. The Honorable Mayor Brandon M. Scott is abstaining on SB 24-13197, Health Department Grant Award with Columbia University, and SB 24-12276, Health Department Agreement with the Johns Hopkins University. The Honorable President Nick Mosby has no abstentions to note this morning. The Honorable Comptroller Bill Henry is abstaining on all travel requests and travel reimbursements. Deputy City Solicitor Stephen Salisbury has no abstentions to note, and the Director of Public Works Khalil Zaid has no abstentions to note this morning. We also have the following no votes to record in the record for items on the routine agenda this morning. Those are as follows. These are no votes by the Honorable President Nick Mosby for the following: SB 24-14324, Award Agreement, Janus Contractors, Inc., City Hall Roof and Dome Restoration. SB 24-13871, Notice of Grant Award, Maryland Department of Aging, fiscal years 21 through 25, American Rescue Plan Older Americans Act, Title III. SB 24-12479, Subgrant Agreement, Family and Children Services of Central Maryland, Inc., and SCS Lexington, LLC. SB 24-14090, First Amendment to Subgrant Agreement with Bon Secours Baltimore Community Works, Inc. SB 24-13199, Grant Agreement, Habitat for Humanity of the Chesapeake. SB 24-12481, Grant Agreement, Unity Properties, Inc. SB 24-12458, ARPA Subrecipient Grant Agreement, Meals on Wheels. SB 24-13073, Subgrant Agreement, Homes for America. SB 24-12459, Subgrant Agreement, Neighborhood Housing Services of Baltimore, Inc. SB 24-12555, Grant Agreement for Housing Accelerator, ARPA, Dominion Community Development Corporation. SB 24-13766, Budget Amendment, Project Place, Inc. SB 24-13684, Second Amendment to ARPA Subgrant Agreement for Baltimore Civic Fund. SB 24-13431, ARPA Subgrant Agreement, Digital Harbor Foundation. SB 24-10438, Agreement, ARPA, Baltimore City Board of School Commissioners. And SB 24-14126, Amendment, Sourcewell Contract, Mobile Refuse Collection Vehicles with Related Equipment, Accessories, and Services. And Mr. President, that concludes our opening statement for this morning. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam Clerk. At this time, I'll entertain a motion for us to approve and adopt the opening statement read by our clerk.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and probably second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. The opening statement has now been adopted. Before we move into the routine agenda, first, I would like to congratulate our mayor, Mayor Brandon M. Scott, for winning his second term in last night's general election. Please give a round of applause. I would also like to congratulate fellow board member, Comptroller Bill Henry, for winning last night as well. And I would just like to also publicly state, I want to congratulate the now Baltimore City Council President-elect, Zeke Cohen, for winning last night, and the 74th iteration of the Baltimore City Council with all the council members that won last night. None of them are in attendance today, but please give a round of applause for them as well. I look to work with Council President-elect Zeke Cohen as it relates to the continuum of government through his transition. And it's my desire that, he has my full and my staff's full support as we transition over the next month and continue to do the city's work. So with that, I would now like to direct the board's attention to a memorandum dated from my office on November the 4th, 2024. Identify matters to be considered as routine agenda items together with any corrections, additions, abstentions, and no votes that have been read by our amazing clerk this morning. I'll entertain a motion to approve all items contained on the routine agenda.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and probably second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. The routine agenda is now adopted. The first item on non-routine agenda this morning can be found on page 4, SB 2414243. That's the Department of Audits. This request is to note the biennial performance audit of the Baltimore Police Department for fiscal years 2022 and 23. On behalf of the audit department, we have
Hi, my name is Josh Pash, City Auditor, and I am here to present the biennial performance audit of Baltimore Police Department, the effectiveness of the towing process. I want to start by thanking the audit team, the Baltimore Police Department, the Department of Transportation, and Accounts Payable for all their help in making this audit go smoothly.
There we go.
Okay. So I'm going to go over the audit objectives and the scope, the identified risk types, our audit methodology, our background information, the findings, and the implementation status of the prior findings. Next slide. So our audit objectives and scope. Our objective was to evaluate the police department's effectiveness of the towing process and also to follow up on the prior year findings. Two recommendations included in the previous report dated February 3rd, 2023. We added Department of Transportation in our scope because the towing process is managed by both departments. We looked at fiscal years 23 and 22. We looked at BPD initiated tows beginning at the scene and followed that to the vehicle intake and release process at the DOT impound lot. We reviewed towing invoice payment process. We did not look at the vehicle auction process. Next slide. The risk types we looked at and identified were efficiency risk, data information risk, and fraud risk. Next slide. Audit methodology. So we conducted interviews and walkthroughs to understand the processes and evaluate risk and controls. Those are going to relate to findings 1, 2, 3 in our confidential report. We visited the DOT impound lot to observe the physical safeguards. We didn't find any exceptions there. We reviewed towing-related specifications, agreements, and contracts and amendments. We did not find any exceptions there. We performed testing to identify payments for non-medallion certified towing companies. We did not find any exceptions there. Next slide. We observed the Department of Transportation performing a physical inventory of vehicles on the DOT impound lot. That is going to be brought up in finding 3. We randomly selected 30 vehicles from the DOT impound lot and traced them from the DOT inventory system to make sure that the vehicle information and location are accurately recorded. We did not find any significant exceptions. We judgmentally selected 55 auction vehicles to make sure that DOT issues the notification letters timely. That will be brought up in finding 3. Reviewed the contents of the notification letters and the DOT website to make sure all necessary information to claim vehicles are complete and clearly stated. That will be brought up in finding 3. Next slide. We judgmentally selected 60 vehicles and tested that DOT reviewed and maintained required documents to identify ownership information, and that is for owners claiming the vehicles. We did not find any significant exceptions there. We judgmentally selected 60 payments to test the accuracy of the towing charges and the owner payments. That will be brought up in finding 2. Reviewed certain IT controls in the new DOT's inventory system. That is presented in the confidential management letter. We reviewed judgmentally selected periodic listings of vehicles which are on police hold at the DOT impound lot. We didn't find any exceptions there. That is when the police send to the DOT impound lot, but they ask the DOT to hold on to them in case they need them further for police work. Next slide. So we did a lot of field work in this audit. The first 3 pictures are of the impound lot. The 4th picture is of the impound gate. As we said, we reviewed the security and of the impound lot. The 5th one is of the intake process, watching how tow trucks are delivering to the DOT. We noted that the vehicles, the tow trucks, are marked as medallion. And then we also reviewed signage to direct customers. And then we also noted that they had a temporary setup in the DOT impound lot to work with customers. Next slide, please. Okay, to give some background information. So what is the difference between a police-initiated tow and a DOT-initiated tow? So there are two tow processes for the police department. The first one is the police department has a vehicle towed to the DOT impound lot. And that would be for stolen vehicles, vehicles involved in an accident, abandoned vehicles, and vehicles in a towaway zone. The towaway zone is usually handled by DOT, but the police do often, periodically, have those towed to the impound lot. The second category of police department tows is when they tow it to a police department location. Those would be such things as vehicles seized as evidence related to a crime or investigation, crimes that require fingerprinting evidence, shootings, search warrants, etc. Those would be towed to the police department headquarters. Less serious crime will be towed to one of the 8 police districts, and we did note that they do not tow vehicles to the central district. DOT-initiated tows, that would be sent to the DOT impound lot. That would be for vehicles on city property, roads, alleys, towaway zones, and public parking lots that are not supposed to be there. And then this was excluded from the audit scope. It's just here to put in context. Next slide. Okay. So the towing process from the scene to the DOT impound lot. So the police department, when they get to the scene, if a tow is needed, they request a tow from a medallion-certified towing company. That towing company will transport the vehicle from the scene to the DOT impound lot. The DOT is responsible for intaking the vehicles, managing the inventory of vehicles, sending notification letters to vehicle owners through certified mail, and then releasing the vehicles, and in cases where the vehicles are not claimed, doing the auction process. And then when a customer comes to claim their vehicle, they will have to confirm their ownership, they have to provide proof of identity, and they will claim the vehicle. Okay, towing process when it goes from the scene to the police department. Police officer will request a tow, also from a medallion-certified towing company. Medallion towing company will transport the vehicle from the scene to a police department location. The police department has their own intake process, and they have their own system, the hot desk system, where that is required, where that is documented. And then when they are done with their investigation, or when they are going to continue investigation at a later time, possibly, they will send it to the Department of Transportation impound lot, and that will follow the same process as the previous slide. And then the police department also notifies the Department of Transportation when the vehicles can be released from hold. And again, the hold process is if the police department wants to keep the vehicle in case they are needed further for investigation purposes. Next slide. This is for context. We did not include the DOT towing in our scope, but we did look at them. So DOT owned towing trucks. So they had 14. They had 8 allocated at a maximum to towable fences. They had 4 that are dedicated to the DOT impound lot, moving things around there, and 2 dedicated to scofflaw violations. And then scofflaw refers to vehicles that are delinquent on 3 or more citations. If they find a vehicle on a city roadway with 3 or more unpaid citations that are older than 30 days, that can be booted, and then once it's booted, they can be towed within 48 hours. And then this is information presented as of August 16th, 2024. Next slide. So we also looked at the number of medallion towing trucks that are available. This is information as of September of 2024. We noted that there were 83 tow trucks that were across the organizations, and here is the split. Next slide. Okay, so the number of tows initiated by the police department and DOT between fiscal years 2020 and 2024, we can see that the ones that are initiated by DOT, that is specifically referring to using DOT trucks, and then the top line is for the police department. Again, this is for information purposes related to when referring to the DOT. But it kind of gives you a scope of how many tows the police department is initiating each of these years. The next is payments. So these are payments to medallion certified companies. We've listed here the police department initiated tows. Those are vehicles that are towed to police department headquarters or police department district. Those invoices are processed by the police department, and then those that are sent to a DOT impound lot, whether they're sent there by DOT or by the police department, those invoices are processed by DOT, and that gives some context of how much we're spending on Medallion. Next slide. Our first finding is the police department did not monitor the efficiency measure for Medallion certified towing companies. The performance measure for Medallion companies was they should arrive at the scene 20 minutes after a tow truck is dispatched. We were informed that when COVID came in 2020, that they waived this 20-minute requirement to arrive at the scene. We looked before COVID to see if they were monitoring it, and they were not monitoring compliance with that 20-minute requirement. So why is this? Number one, police department does not track towing companies' arrival time. They do track in two different systems. In the CAD system, they track when a police officer arrives at the scene, when they call the police dispatch to request a tow, when the police dispatch contacts the towing company, and when the towing company dispatches the tow truck to the scene, but not when they arrive at the scene. In the hot desk, the police department tracks when the police officer arrives at the scene, the date and time the vehicle was towed from the scene, the location the vehicle is towed from and where it's towed to, the name of the towing company and the tow truck number, and the reason for the vehicle is being towed, and the time when the police officer leaves the scene. Next slide. So what is the effect of this? The effect is the 20-minute requirement is a good efficiency measure to manage time and to prevent traffic congestion, the goal being to get the vehicle off the street. The towing companies that take longer than that time to arrive at the scene could result in higher costs for the police department. For example, the police officer will have to stay at the scene for a long amount of time, and then also other parties that are involved have additional waiting time as well. Our recommendation is to consider reinstating the policy that the towing companies arrive 20 minutes after the call requesting a tow, and if the 20 minutes is not a reasonable or reflective measure for these days, then they would set a new measure, and then to also track data and monitor those policies to see if the towing company is meeting that goal, and we are addressing those risks. Finding 2. Police department does not consistently maintain supporting documentation for towing invoices. We found that the police department towing unit, they reconcile the invoices with the towing bills. A towing bill is basically a receipt for each tow, and then invoices come monthly or the period what they send it at, and then the the BPD towing unit basically matches up all of those towing tickets to the towing invoice to make sure that is accurate. We noted they're doing that, and then they are submitting the validated invoices and the towing bills to the fiscal department, police department, fiscal department, and then the police fiscal conducts a secondary review and inputs those records into Workday, the accounting system, for processing. However, they do not consistently maintain towing bill documents to demonstrate that they are paid properly. Basically, we could see that the process was working currently, but when we looked back into our scope period, there was not complete records there. So we asked police department the cause. They noted that during that period, a temporary employee was responsible for filing towing bills. The employee is no longer with the city, and the fiscal department cannot locate that documentation for our testing. Next slide. So the effect is that the police department cannot demonstrate that the towing expenses were paid properly for our scope period. For fiscal years 22 and 23, we noted that the police department paid 21 invoices totaling $132,000. We looked at 11 of those invoices, and the police department was not able to provide towing bills for 5 out of those 11. For the invoices totaling $13,000, they did not have any of the Medallion towing bills, and for one invoice totaling $5,000, they had only a partial amount of the towing bills to support the invoice. Our recommendation is that they enforce the police department, fiscal department to consistently follow the retention schedule so that those documents can be available. Next slide. Okay, some more background information regarding notification letters. So the state law says that the city must send notification via certified mail to the last known registered owner and any secured parties within 7 days after taking the vehicle into custody. There's also a city code that states that within 2 full working days after the vehicle has been removed and sent to the auto pound lot, Director of Transportation must post notification to the owner of the vehicle, and then within 7 days, post notification to the secured parties by certified mail and get a return receipt. Green receipts. So when you do certified mail, United States Post Office sends out the green receipt, which identifies whether the mail was delivered and whether the recipient had received it and signed it, or whether it was non-deliverable and is returned to the sender. So the Department of Transportation knows that it was either received by the owner of the vehicle or that it was undeliverable. Finding 3, DOT's customer service to vehicle owners needs improvement. We noted that DOT does not clearly and completely communicate critical information to vehicle owners to claim their vehicles in an efficient manner. We noted timeliness of sending notification letters. We noted completeness and clarity of notification letters. We noted the availability of information in multiple language on the notification letters, and we noted that the information in the vehicle inventory system are not accurate. I will break these down. Overall, this could result in delays in releasing vehicles to owners. Next slide. Okay. Timeliness. So we selected 55 auction vehicles to validate if notification letters were sent to the vehicle owners timely. We were unable to test 26 or 47% of those because the DOT was not able to locate the green receipts, evidencing that the notification was sent out. The effect is consistently retaining notification letters is important so that we can show that we are following city code and state law. And then we have that for proof that they were sent out timely, and we have that evidence that we notified the owner before it is auctioned. Next slide. Completeness and clarity in the notification letter. So we notice that they have missing information. For example, descriptions of acceptable documents required for proof of ownership and owner identification are not included. The available options to pay the fees are not included. And whether they can provide their documents in person or online to reclaim their vehicle, that information is not included. We also noted that the notification letters are only available in English. We also noted that in 2010, the Hispanic Latino population was 4.2%, and that was increased to 7.8% in 2020. And the Asian population was 2.3% in 2010 and increased to 3.6% in 2020. So we see that there's a substantial percentage of the city's population that could be negatively impacted by not having multiple languages available in these notification letters. Next slide. Information in the vehicle inventory system. So this is a system that DOT uses to record when vehicles come in and where are they on the lot. We looked at 165 vehicles, and we noted that all those vehicles that are listed in the inventory system were on the DOT impound lot. 75 vehicles, or 45%, were found to be in different locations than was recorded on the inventory list. So when a customer comes in to get their vehicle, the location listed in the system is not the system where the vehicle's at, not the location where the vehicle's at. So this creates extra time and additional DOT staff to find the vehicles because it's not where they were looking for it, and can cause inconvenience to the owner, who now has to wait while their vehicle is found. Next slide. Okay, green receipts. So green receipts were missing. The DOT does not keep the green receipts in an organized manner. As we see from the picture, they are kept in a storage unit in boxes, and you can see that. So we also noted the incorrect vehicle location. What was the cause of that? Some were clerical errors, and some were supervisors who moved the vehicle in the lot for whatever reason were not updating the vehicle information system consistently. Next slide. Okay. Recommendations. So we recommend that for notification letters that they have all required information complete and clear, the information that I mentioned earlier, and then also consider making this information available in multiple languages to serve Baltimore City's diverse population. Regarding the finding of information in the vehicle inventory system, our recommendation was to periodically reconcile the vehicle's location information in the inventory system to the vehicle's physical location on the DOT impound lot, basically check if the inventory system is up to date. Regarding the missing green receipts, we recommended converting to an electric filing system and to establish a systematic filing system to locate records efficiently when needed so that they have the evidence that the notification letters are sent. Next slide. We did follow up on our prior audit. The objective was Police Department, Crime Laboratory, and Evidence Control, effective and efficient processes and controls over receiving, processing, and sending results for items to receive in a timely manner. There were 2 recommendations, and both were implemented. Next slide. We also issued a confidential management letter. These identify additional findings and communicated to the appropriate DOT and city personnel. We omitted it from this report due to data security concerns, and that is based on government auditing standards 9.64 to 9.66, reporting confidential and sensitive information. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you so much, Mr. Auditor. At this time, are there any questions or concerns from members of the board? Mr. Comptroller, the floor is yours.
Just one, and we may see that in reports back from BPD or DOT, but how have the police department and transportation responded to your department's recommendations?
So they were in agreement. I think that for the details, I would let them respond to give how much, how far they want to go into that. I think the police department is online.
Is that your only question?
Yeah, that was it.
Again, we're having some slight technical issues in the beginning. Mr. Wells, are you on and available to speak? Oh, that's not BPD?
No, it's Derek, and then it's DOT can
Who's,
probably go first.
anybody here from?
Is it
They own,
Loeffler?
BPD's Derek online. Loeffler,
Derek
yeah.
Loeffler. Okay.
Is Mr. Loeffler, are you on, are you online?
And Chief. Bobo.
And Chief Graham?
Yeah,
Good morning, everybody. This is Charlotte Graham. I'm the CFO and CPO for the Baltimore Police Department, and Major Derek Loeffler is on here too. He's actually at the training academy. So we do have a quick presentation if you would like us to show that.
Yes,
Go
thank
over
you.
our findings. Okay.
Yes, thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having us here today. As you noted, there's 2 findings. The finding number 1 was about the efficiency measure for the 20 minutes and the tracking of that measure. So if you don't mind, I'm going to talk a little bit about the tracking of the measure. We recognize that that was a problem too. So in October, there was a contract approved for Atora, and that contract actually does the dispatching and will allow us to track the exact dispatch time of the tow companies, which is important to us. The other measure was the 20 minutes, and that was not removed lightly. The challenge is, the towers that we currently have, we have about 3 medallion tows. We used to have about 7 to 9. So we don't have the number of towers needed to respond within the time of the 20 minutes. So what we've been working on is gathering information of best practices. How can we look at this program so that we can increase the number of towers that we have? Because we don't want our officers out there for more than 20 minutes because we need them to be answering calls for service. So we are looking into those things, and we do agree with the findings and concur that they're issues and want to make sure that we're addressing them. So that's finding number 1. The other finding for the Baltimore Police Department was finding number 2, and this is where we're talking about the invoices and the backup information for the invoices. As the city auditor noted, there is a double validation process. We did at the time have a temporary employee, so we weren't able to locate the records. So what the plan of action is, is to basically work with Autora because they're going to have the electronic verification of the dispatch. We would still have this, the secondary review, the primary review, and the secondary review. And then we would take that information from Autora, which would be electronic, and it will be a more condensed information. And we're going to upload that into Workday with the invoice so that everything's electronic and in the system of record. And with that, I would be happy to answer any questions that you might have on the matters for BPD.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Madam Graham. Ms. Comptroller, any questions?
I'm trying to remember what finding 3 was. Were there any, were those just for, that was just for DOT? Okay, that's just wanted to make sure. Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions or concerns? Thank you so much. From DOT perspective, Madam Director, do you have anything to add to the discussion?
Yes, good morning, Council President, Comptroller, Honorable Mayor, and members of the board. So for this, the one point regarding some of the timeless aspects of it, DOT's towing division does send the both the regular mail letters and the certified mail letters. The one challenge with the certified letters is tied to the displacement of the division from the administration building. So what was representative in the slides for the boxes is more of that temporary measure because we're not in the administration building. We're working out of a small trailer, which really can house like the staff itself. So there were some challenges. There have been challenges because of that. With going into the renovated building, we have very full, extensive, clear filing system there physically, as well as with our transition from the old IVIC system to the Aries system. We are now starting to utilize some of the electronic filing features. So where we'll have property IDs for vehicles, then we'll be able to associate electronic documents with those. It's just still a work in progress. We actually started doing that even before this audit occurred. So we have been proactively working on that. Regarding the completeness and clarity, there's a lot of information in there, and we want to make sure that we are addressing as many different languages as possible. So instead of doing a full overhaul of the entire letter and trying to send out letters in multiple languages, because if we don't know what someone's language would be, we're putting some additional notation on the bottom of it and some of the main languages, directing someone to the website for additional information where they can get some additional details, and anyone else wanting more information regarding the towing process and what's required. Additionally, DOT currently uses the language interpreter system to aid citizens when they speak other languages during our front-facing process. And so, of course, when someone is going to the website, then they'll be able to view that in their native language as well. Regarding the information in the vehicle information systems not being accurate, this has been rectified, but this was also partly due to some of the procedures that changed during the COVID era, where we weren't allowing the Medallion tow truck drivers to come into the lot. So basically, it was a two-step process where they would arrive at the intake location, and then a location would be assigned, then someone else, one of our tow truck drivers, would then take it and pull it into a location on the lot. And that created some of those inconsistencies. So that has been eliminated, where now we're allowing the medallions to come into the lot, and as well as the security officers who are on site are also verifying the location of that vehicle to ensure that it's in the right location. And then we'll be doing some additional periodic spot checks as well for that. I think I've hit everything. Any questions?
Thanks so much, Madam Director. Ms. Comptroller, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning.
Good morning.
So the first question is, are you using the municipal post office for sending out the certified letters in the first place?
Everything goes. So some of the stuff I think comes back through, but everything goes through the post office. I know there's
Through the municipal post office, as opposed to going out to, like, your people are dealing directly with the U.S. Post Office. Might want to
let me verify that.
check
Yeah,
on that,
I don't want
because
to speak on that.
if you're not working with Charmaine and her folks at the municipal post office, they love helping agencies find solutions that people may not know about
Okay.
what's possible.
Understood.
Through the
Thank you.
post office. That was the first one, and then the second one was, and this is kind of a question for the administration, Is every agency individually responsible for coming up with different language versions of its documents, or is there any centralization of that? Because if there was centralization of that, then I would wonder if you could just send out like a little postcard with like QR codes or web links, each one in a different language, and let people just go to some centralized city website to see the document in the language they need to see it in.
Mr. Mayor?
No, thank you, Mr. Comptroller. So as you know, we have the new language access law that the council just passed, and me and the administration will be working with all the agencies to make sure that everyone's getting their documents and processes in a way that's understandable for all of our residents in Baltimore and adhering to the law. We know the MEMA is been doing a great job of that work already, but we're just going to expand upon that with the new law.
Any other questions or concerns from members of the board? If not, the board is willing to move forward and note this audit. Thank you so much, Mr. Auditor. The next item on non-routine agenda can be found on is SB 2414115, Law Department. This request is to approve a settlement agreement and release with Kevin Sample. On behalf of the Law Department, we have
Matthew Bradford, Chief of Staff for the Law Department. Mr. Mayor, Council President, Comptroller, and members of the board, the Law Department requests approval of a settlement in the matter of Sample versus Mayor and City Council of Baltimore. This matter concerns an October 22nd, 2022 motor vehicle collision. Officer Rashad Horsey was traveling on the 1800 block of Baker Street responding to an emergency call. At the same time, Kevin Sample was traveling on Monroe Street. The vehicles collided at the intersection of these two streets. And as a result, Mr. Sample suffered injuries. Officer Horsey alleged that he had lights and sirens activated when he proceeded through the traffic light. Mr. Sample alleged that he had a green light and that no lights and sirens were activated. A third-party witness to the incident stated that no lights and sirens were activated. And as a result, you had sort of a dispute where an independent witness would have been adverse to the city. So although law enforcement vehicles are permitted certain privileges when responding to emergencies, they must still operate vehicles in a reasonable manner. And given the circumstances, the Law Department recommends a settlement in the amount of $30,000. And we do note that after the incident, Officer Horsey was reprimanded.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chief of Staff. At this time, are there any questions or concerns from members of the board? Hearing and seeing none, the board will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second?
It's been moved and probably second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. This item is approved. Thank you so much, Mr. Chief of Staff.
Thank you.
The next item on the non-routine agenda can be found on page 318. That's SB 2413632, Department of Transportation. This request is to approve an award to Santos Construction Company for TR 24004, reconstruction of alleyways citywide. A protest has been received by J. Villa Construction Incorporated. On behalf of the Department of Transportation, we have, for the administration, she just left. Maybe she thought it was deferred.
Go get her out the hallway.
To continue the process of us moving forward, we're going to jump ahead and then jump back to that. The only other thing outside of DOT is the BOPA.
No, we have
Right.
the DPW cooperative agreement consolidation.
SB 24131.
Yeah, let me call it in. I got it. Okay, yeah, we're going to jump ahead. We're going to jump ahead to the next item. The next item can be found, it is SB 2413198, that's DPW, Cooperative Agreement for Solid Waste Infrastructure for Recycling Grant in the amount of $3,031,000. On behalf of the agency we have.
Good morning, Mr. President, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Comptroller, honorable members of the board. I'm Matt Garbark, Interim Deputy Director for the Department of Public Works. This item is a grant agreement with the EPA in the amount of $3,031,840, and it's going to be used to develop and construct a solar-powered scalable compost facility. The grant is made as part of the EPA's Solid Waste Infrastructure for Recycling program, which was established by the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. This project represents an important step towards increasing waste diversion and thereby decreasing the amount of waste that ultimately ends up in the landfill. A significant portion of municipal waste is actually compostable, and thus making composting an important tool in reducing waste and moving us towards zero waste. The project itself is expected to accommodate 12,000 tons of organic material annually, and that will reduce around 6,000 tons of greenhouse gas emissions that come from landfill operations each year. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Thank you, Mr. Infrastructure Czar. Mr. Comptroller, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Zarbark, I had two questions. Well, the first one, what's the timeline for implementing the project funded by the grant?
So the project is in design now. It's being designed as part of the East Side Transfer Station, which is also looking at the Bowleys Lane facility as well. It's actively in design. That design is still in the beginning stages. So once that ends, you're probably looking about 18 to 24 months for construction of everything there. But it's still a couple years out for design for everything.
Okay. The mayor and the council president may remember when we were all colleagues in the city council, our former colleague Mary Pat Clark held multiple hearings on municipal composting, and so I'm very glad to see DPW is able to move forward with this. I know from then that this has been a goal of DPW's for a long time, so I'm happy to see that. Also, just to put it in perspective, how do you intend to allocate these funds within the broader infrastructure plans for DPW? You mentioned this also include Bowleys Lane.
Yeah.
Are there other upgrades to different DPW facilities that this will fit in with?
Yes, sir. Currently, there's $64 million that has been already appropriated for DPW solid waste facilities. This includes a number of rebuilds to our eastern and southwestern yards, Reedbird and Bowleys, as well as upgrades to the Kane Street facility, our northwest transfer station, and a few other yards as well, including the landfill itself. That is just what's already been appropriated. There's more in the out years of the CIP, as well as anything else that we may get from the state. So there is a larger plan. This is one piece of that plan, and it's being tied into the larger redesign of that facility.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Comptroller. At this time, are there any additional questions or concerns from members of the board? Hearing and seeing none, at this time, the board is willing to take a motion.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. This item is approved. The next item on the non-routine agenda is with, it's going to be on page 318. That's SB 2413632, Department of Transportation. This request is to approve an award to Santos Construction Company for TR 24004, reconstruction of alleyways citywide. A protest letter has been received by J. Billa Construction Incorporated on behalf of the administration. We have.
Good morning, Director Corinne Johnson from DOT. So in this case, J. Villa is contending the bidder for a couple reasons. One, they're saying that Santos provided, misrepresented the goal value for this contract, and that there's some self-performance claims that are incorrect, and there are certain irregularities that Jay Villa mentioned, but felt that they should be cured. I will turn over a lot of that evaluation, that discussion to Director Lundy to speak to, but I can say that DOT reviewed it, and of course, Machado, who was listed in here, is both a supplier and a firm, manufacturing firm, and so the code is a little bit different for those, in those cases. Director Lundy, if you want to get into more of your analysis.
Good morning, honorable members of the board. As far as, for both of these items, actually, Jay Villa acknowledges a discrepancy within their protests. They deem it to be, they've categorized as a minor irregularity. It is not such within the city code and within our regulations that this can be considered a minor irregularity under the Minority and Women's Business Program. They do acknowledge that there was a discrepancy between the numbers they listed in their MWB commitment forms, and that's what resulted in their lack of compliance. Because all of the bidders did not have a compliance issue, so we had compliant bidders that DOT is trying to move forward with. That's why they had no ability to exercise a 10-day cure. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the administration? Hearing and seeing none, time I'll entertain a motion.
Is Jay Villa here?
Oh, I'm sorry, we do have a protest. Is Jay Villa here? I know we received
Your
it.
Honor, my name is Andrew Vance. I'm the attorney for Jay Villa. Can you hear me or
Yeah,
see
we,
me?
we can hear you and see you loudly and clearly.
Very good, thank you. I'll be very brief, and I thank you for those comments that clarified the city's position. We respectfully disagree. There are two bids here. Both have flaws, and Jay Villa has acknowledged their flaw. We'll talk about that very briefly. First, there is a mathematical error, a multiplication error in Jay Villa's calculation, and it results in a change to its bid, not its bid, I'm sorry, but to that portion representing its MBE participation. It is a difference of $31.04. And it really, although the math is apparent, the result is apparent on the face of the bid, it really is totally irrelevant because Jay Villa Construction is a certified MBE firm and is doing all of the MBE work itself. Also has qualified WBE contractors that meet the WBE requirement. But this is a $31 difference that would deprive Baltimore City of $322,000 in savings, because that's how low Jay Villa's bid was. They're a qualified company. There's been no question that their bid was too low. They are ready, willing, and able to do this work. So that's Jay Villa. Let's look at Santos Construction. The self-performing requirement for Baltimore City is 51%. So 51% of the total contract value that Santos has submitted in its bid of $1,063,627.50. 51% must be self-performed. Santos Construction has only said that they will self-perform 7.4%, not the 51% that's required by the city. That is clear on its face. It's a non-responsive bid. This flaw cannot be fixed, and as a non-responsive bid, no award can be made on this contract. So the self-performing is a fatal flaw for Santos Construction. To comment briefly on the MBE portion, while the invitation for bids at page 115 does require a 30% MBE participation, Santos facially complies with that by using a concrete supplier. The city this morning says that in accordance with the Baltimore City Code, that different treatment is given to manufacturers as opposed to suppliers. I would submit that Machado is a well-known supplier of concrete. They're not a manufacturer. When this code was drafted for Baltimore City, there was no intent that someone that puts water into a slurry and puts a concrete mix into it becomes a manufacturer. This is talking about manufacturers of equipment, of building components, of things of that nature, not a concrete supplier. So it's our position that Santos Construction failed to comply with what the IFB clearly required for self-performance and for MBE participation. On the other hand, J. Villa has made a minor math multiplication error. The correct result is clearly apparent on the face. It's a $31 issue, and the city stands to lose $322,000 if it chooses to award to the non-responsive Santos Construction. So we request an award to J. Villa Construction as the lowest responsive and responsible bidder. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Vance. Can someone from the city, I guess, respond to the calculation? Do we have any rebuttal to that, just for full transparency to our constituents?
Yes. There's
Thank you, as always, Chief Lundy.
So there's a fundamental misunderstanding in and of itself that just because J. Villa would be an MBE that they wouldn't be applicable to the goals. They still have to meet the goals.
I think that's an important point to kind of communicate. Could you just kind of expound on that real quick so
Sure.
general public understands?
So even when we have a MWBE prime contractor, they're still eligible, or excuse me, they're still mandated to meet the applicable goals on the contract. So 15 and 5, 27 and 10, whatever would have you. They just have the ability, if they have current certification, to be able to self-perform a portion of that work, but they're not exempt from the obligation to do so.
Thank you for expanding on that.
And then as far as wholesalers, they are, when we speak of Machado, they are certified as a brick, stone, and related construction material merchant wholesaler, and thus the limitation on that the limitation on the ability to count their participation, that caveat is not applicable since they are, in fact, wholesalers.
Gotcha. Thank you so much, Chief Lundy. Mr. Vance, just want to provide you an opportunity to I give your comments to the city's position.
Thank you. The self-performance was never addressed, so I think we're all in unresponsive, fatally flawed bid to which no award can be granted. In terms of J. Villa, I would say that the forms as they presently have been issued and in this invitation for bids do not indicate that an MBE firm itself must seek separate MBE participation. So I believe that with the forms that were provided to us and the regulations that were also provided as part of that IFB or that were referred to, we have complied in every possible way with MBE, WE participation, and with self-performance. Clearly, your question this morning is, can you award to Santos Construction? And you cannot because of the self-performance failure that they made, which is a material aspect of the contract and hasn't been addressed. So we ask for an award to J. Villa Construction. Thank you very much for your time.
Mr. Mayor?
No question for me. I'd make a motion that we approve.
Second. I still did have a question, which was not sure Chief Lundy's explanation of the MBE issue addressed the self-performance question. And I was looking for somebody, and I don't know if this is a DOT thing, a procurement thing, or a law thing, to address why do we not have to deal with the 51% self-performance?
There's a motion, and it has been second. I believe your question is germane to the motion. So, Chief Lundy, can you respond quickly to that, or Mr. CPO?
I was trying to pull up the document, so I don't have the document specifically in front of me, but it's my understanding that there's a misunderstanding about the amount that they indicated they would self-perform to count towards the goal.
Oh,
versus
okay.
the amount of work they would do as a prime contractor for the entire contract.
Gotcha, okay.
So-
And that-
so
and
their
that if you, and
self-performance
if
is
you,
not indicative
if you
of all
add
the
those
work they would do.
together, then they do hit the 51%.
Yes.
Okay.
That's my understanding, is
Okay.
that the percentage they were speaking of
That's what
is
you're- yeah,
just simply
okay.
the
All right.
self-performance
Okay.
of the goal,
Gotcha.
not the
Okay.
entire work on the contract.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Comptroller. Well, there is a motion. It's been properly seconded. Any unreadiness? No additional unreadiness at this time. The board is ready to proceed with a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. This item is approved. Thank you, Mr. Vance. I believe you are on for the next item as well. The next item on our routine can be found on page 321. That's SB 2413629. Department of Transportation. His request is to approve an award to Santos Construction Company for TR 24001, reconstruction of footways citywide. A protest has been received by J Villa Construction Incorporated. On behalf of the administration, we have
Director Corinne Johnson. So really, the conversation we just had is the same for this contract, so I'll pause on that move.
Thank you. Chief Lundy, any additional points to add for us today?
Just want to reiterate that again, in their letter, they acknowledged that they made an irregularity in the calculations, thus inconsistent numbers that led to their noncompliance. I also just want to harken back and be clear that the Minority and Women's Business Program requirements are applicable to all city contracts. So even if it's not, if the entire code is not listed in a solicitation, it nonetheless is applicable as our city code.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chief. With that, we do have a protest. Mr. Vance, if you would like to speak on behalf of, provide your testimony or any specific rebuttal to what has just been communicated by the administration.
I do, and thank you very much for that opportunity. I agree with the city. Delay argument is the same that you just heard from 24004, so there's no need to discuss the elements of that other than to say that, again, with self-performance here, the city requires in the invitation for bids a 51% self-performance. Santos Construction, as it did in 24004, indicates a 5% participation. The forms are crystal clear. And contrary to what I believe it was Mr. Lundy said, there is no adding up of different items that is permissible under these documents, under this invitation for bids. When the contractor is asked what it will self-perform, it has to lay out what that work will be. And here it is 5%. Santos Constructions indicates that it will be performing $67,756 out of a $1,355,120 bid. So that's 5%. That document facially is non-responsive. It can't be fixed, and there can't be any award based on that non-responsive document. It is not a minor error. It's not a minor irregularity. When you look at both Santos's bid and J Villa's has, again, a minor mathematical error, less than 1%, and taking away savings to Baltimore City of $556,320. The state of Maryland, and I'll just very briefly cite two COMAR regulations. The first is 21.05.02.12. The second is 21.06.02.04. Both deal with minor irregularities, which you will have to decide whether J Villa's mathematical calculation error, the correct number of which is clearly evident by doing the math that's indicated on their bid document. It's less than 1%. You have to decide if that is a minor irregularity. If it is so, then either you can ask for a correction on the document itself to do the correct math, or you can waive that less than a 1% error, which would give you a benefit of $556,320. Again, won't repeat the specific arguments in the bid protest letter, but again, the MBE argument is the exact same for Santos. They are using a concrete supplier for concrete. The fact that Machado may, in other instances, manufacture bricks or be a wholesaler is not what we're dealing with here. We're dealing with concrete, and they're not a manufacturer of concrete as the industry understands that. They're simply adding a hose to some slurry and then pumping that onto sidewalks. So they are a supplier, and the amount that is indicated for Santos of $406,536, only 25% of that can count towards the MBE goal. So our argument is the same as before, and I thank you again for your attention.
Thank you. To respond to what you're contesting. Chief Lundy?
Yes. Again, there's a fundamental misunderstanding within the bid documents about the MWBE commitment forms when we're speaking of how much a prime contractor intends to self-perform of that goal percentage to achieve the goals and how much work they will do generally. So the prime contractor obviously submits the bid with the full price of the bid. The agency has determined that the prime will do that work and that all the other specs are compliant. We're simply looking at the MWBE portion, and when we speak of self-performance in those forms, we are speaking of how much that prime contractor will perform with their own forces to satisfy that goal. So it's not that they're not going to do any other work on the contract. We're only in that narrow lens of review looking at how much they're going to do towards the achievement of the goals.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chief. Mr. Vance, any additional items to close us out?
Yes, less than 1 minute. Again, look at a variety of documents that are part of this somewhat confusing bid package. I don't say that disrespectfully at all.
No, we don't take
but
it that
when
way,
it
Mr.
comes,
Vance. I said we don't take it
Thank
that
you.
way, Mr. Vance. Thank you.
Thank you. When it comes down to that page that asks for self-performance, that is where the contractor must list all that it is going to do and give the percentage and the dollar value. And Santos gave us that percentage. It's 5%. There are no other documents that are incorporated or that the city can look at. This is the self-performance statement, and they stated that they would do 5% as opposed to the 51% that is mandated. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Vance.
So moved.
It's been moved and probably second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. This item is approved. Mr. Vance, thank you for coming on. If you could please pass back to Jay Villa the city's support of folks coming in and testifying and providing, whether it's a protest or not, their concerns. It's really important to this process, and we truly appreciate your time.
Thank you.
The last item, I believe, unless the clerk will tell me otherwise, is non-routine item found on page 161, SB 2414287. Mayor's office is requested to approve the termination of the agreement with the Baltimore Office of Promotion and Arts. On behalf of the administration, we have
Senior Advisor Calvin Young and Tanya Miller Hall, Senior Advisor for Arts and Culture, and also Lindsay Jackson, Director of External Affairs. Good morning, Mr. Council President. Good morning, Mr. Mayor. Good morning, Mr. Comptroller and members of the board. The City of Baltimore has long valued the Baltimore Office of Performance and the Arts, BOPA, as a pivotal partner in fostering and engaging in a vibrant arts community. However, after careful consideration and thorough review, the city has decided on October 16th, 2024, to exercise its right to terminate the contract with BOPA for convenience by Section J, subsection 1 of our agreement, which allows termination by either party within 90 days written notice. This decision is propelled by concerns regarding BOPA's financial performance and subsequent ability to support the arts community on behalf of the City of Baltimore. Over time, it has been evident that BOPA's handling of city-allocated funds has not met the standards of transparency and accountability required for this critical role. While we express concern, we have also sought to be helpful, and on October 18th, the city advanced its Q3 payment of $633,000, $633,389, which is actually due in December, to help BOPA stave off financial shortfall and make payroll. As we navigate the transition of services, our primary focus is to minimize disruption to employees and, crucially, lessen the impact on artists and creatives who depend on grant funding. We are committed to ensuring these vital community members receive the support they need during this period. In the coming months, we will collaborate with our fiscal agency, the Baltimore Civic Fund, to distribute $500,000 in artist relief funding to individual artists. Additionally, we have already initiated the critical work of our transition team with BOPA's team to ensure a smooth process over the next 90 days. While this transition represents a significant change, it is also an opportunity to establish a more functional cultural network. We are dedicated to a transparent and transition and to opening opportunities for new partnerships to embrace and elevate the community's needs and the city's rich cultural environment. The city thanks BOPA for its years of continued service and contributions to the arts scene, and we are excited to foster a sustainable and inclusive cultural ecosystem in future endeavors. And we'll take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Senior Advisor. Are there any questions or concerns from members of the board? Hearing and seeing none. Any additional items to add from the administration? Mr. Jackson, Ms. Black? At this time, we have a protest letter from, I believe, a member of the board or members from the BOPA community.
And Mr. President, may I share, I have two additional statements, one from Bromo Arts and one from Maggie Viejas. I just
Okay.
wanted to note for you, sorry. They were
Just
not
to
read
note
out
that
in
for the
original.
record. Thank you so much, Madam Clerk. At this time, any folks in opposition, and if you could come up, board will hear from you.
Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm glad she did acknowledge the letter. I was tracked down not too long ago because it wasn't acknowledged, but I was informed that there is a letter out there with over 80 signatures that include majority artists in opposition to this cancellation. As you mentioned, I am a city resident and a supporter of the arts community, but the lens I want to share today is that from a board member. So oftentimes when you sit on the outside, the information that you get is from the media and not that from sitting on the inside. One thing that I want to express is that I'm deeply concerned about the lack of connection that has been brought and actually brought us to this point. One, building on shared goals will take us a long way, and I don't see that happening as a board member. I do want to echo, Mr. Mayor, a statement that you made on October the 16th that says, I encourage the board, organization leadership, and the transition committee to use this moment to refocus on BOPA's core mission and use this opportunity to envision a future that centers supporters, Baltimore's artists and creatives, and particularly that statement of envisioning a future that centers and supports Baltimore's artists and creatives. When people think of BOPA, technically it's really two organizations in one. You have BOPA, who's focused on the art community, and you have BFAI that's focused on the festivals. When we endeavored, or the board as a whole, this interim committee, we took on a one-year commitment about 7.5 months ago with the task of organizing, knowing what was a challenging structure that had been set before. We had a new CFO, we had we had a new CEO and 3 CEOs within 6 years, which is very challenging in itself. So the board understood this, and we started taking paths forward, specifically focusing on financials, operational efficiency, and a strategic path forward. One of the things that I know from professional experience is that limited information generates a perception of stagnation. However, the progress that was really being made was a solid foundation to move us forward. And I want to give two specific examples. In September, there was a media story released that said Broke BOPA wants $1.8 million in bailout. At that time, BOPA was working with the city on $847,000 of outstanding accounts receivable from the prior fiscal year. At the same time, BOPA had received notification in July of 2024 that they will receive $500,000 in ARPA funds to support the arts community. In addition, at that period, BOPA had completed 70% of the contract's value, but had only received 25% of the contract itself. So if I was to convert that into dollars, we're basically saying that at the time that this statement was released, BOPA was outstanding $900,000 of their contracted value, but was only paid 25%. So if we add that to the $846,000 outstanding from the prior year, in addition to the $500,000 of the ARPA funds, we're talking about $2.2 million of outstanding funds. So when BOPA reached out to the city, this wasn't an ask for funds for a bailout. It was a transparency signal that if we don't get these funds, we're going to run into a cash flow issue. So instead of using this as an opportunity of frustration and unproductive reactions, I would look at it as an opportunity for more collaboration and constructive dialogue. One, it could have served as an opportunity that as contracts go forward, we look for opportunity to align the payments with the milestones of the contract and not just doing quarterly payments. In addition, it also served as an opportunity for personnel to actually sit down and evaluate the contract ongoing, not just randomly, but as these milestones were occurring, evaluating the cost associated with it, also evaluating the payment instruction and any additional outstanding funds. Another example that I wanted to throw out there is that as the interim board came on, we understood the post-COVID challenges, and as I mentioned, 3 CEOs in 6 years, which signaled for us that business as usual was not going to be the same. So at this time, we look for opportunities to change this, one being the rollout of an advisory board, not just including the interim board, but the artist community and other stakeholders that have a connection with arts, economics, and education. At that time, we also developed transition teams within the board to actually focus on key evaluations and areas. However, to our surprise, we received a cancellation of contracts. For us, we look at this as an opportunity for more advisory engagement versus just a cancellation. And specific examples of this would include allowing us to roll out these advisory boards so that we can strengthen community trust and support and better understand the needs of the arts community. And secondly, be creative. This could be used as a tool to address some of these issues from an arts perspective that the city has challenges with. Mental health support, crime reduction support, economic opportunities, because we do know our artists, there is a disconnect or gap when you talk about economic stability, and also enhancing our education system. My recommendation, in addition to these letters that I'm understanding exist, is that I strongly recommend that BOPA, this timeline on canceling the contract be extended, primarily to allow for 3 key things. 1, to identify and incorporate the arts community and have a clear plan. 2, for the city to identify what are some key performance indicators that need to be addressed and measured going forward, and so that agencies across the city can come together and come up with a cohesive plan that benefits economically the city.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Sims. Who else? Are there any other folks who want to speak on behalf of opposition for BOPA? You can speak, sure, if you would like to speak.
Mr. Mayor, Council President, and other members of the Board of Estimates, I have to share that this day is rather disappointing because I came to this role committed to partnership, committed to making a difference, and committed to working together with the administration to actually right the ship of an organization that, through numerous sources, was concerning, challenged, and the like. I liken that to taking a hard right turn with the Titanic when forced with a 7-month timeline for improving a really challenged situation. But what I'll also share is that I also have concerns around the alignment of the administration with me and that goal from the very beginning. It starts off with one of the things that was, for me, a non-starter, which was the status of the contract. My understanding prior to joining the organization was that the contract was safe. And then on 2 days before my first day, I was informed that the contract would be terminated and they wanted to renegotiate, that there would not be an automatic renegotiation, which is okay. But the timeline for a 1-year contract being extremely truncated, not getting a draft contract until the end of May, not being able to come before this body on the regular agenda because it was not submitted to us. Our first negotiation didn't happen until the 12th of June, which is after the deadline, forced us into a very tough position. But you also have to look at the financial situation of the organization. When I came into the organization, I realized or found out that there had not been a reconciliation of our books since June of 2023. That means that there was not an actuals-based budget for me to work from to determine what needed to be paid, how things needed to be paid, what the financial situation of the organization was. We brought on board an outside accounting firm that then looked at those numbers, looked at what was going on, and that is where we found out what our cash flow and cash position was. I will reiterate, the conversation that happened on the 18th of September was not a request for a bailout. It was a request for a conversation with the administration as how best to move forward in this situation. What is very concerning to me is that what is not being discussed is that, one, the organization realized that we'd been doing too much with too little for too long. When you look at the fact that the city pays us $2.4 million, 2.7 if you include dollars that are allocated for Creative Baltimore Fund, but it costs $5.3 million to do the work that we do. In addition to the 5 events that we are asked to produce and raise funds for, plus raise dollars to support the arts community, that is very, very difficult to handle. And so our position was, when we shared the financial position of the organization, was looking at taking away some of the things that were on the contract, including the production of fireworks and the like, so that we could focus on being the Arts Council for the City of Baltimore. My understanding is that with the termination of this contract, that also means that you would be terminating us as the Arts Council of Baltimore. And for lack of a better way to put it, it's really not fair to have not given this body and this president and this staff the actual time to right the ship, to look at a better way to do the business of this organization, absent any real dialogue or conversation. There's a number of other things that I could share if you have any other questions about the financial state of the organization, but I just wanted to say that.
Mr. Mayor?
Thank you very much for your time. Thank you, everybody. I make a motion to approve.
Second.
One technical note, neither of the opponents identified themselves for the record.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Rachel Graham, Chief Executive Officer, Baltimore Office of Promotion in the Arts.
And
Angela Sims, interim board treasurer.
any no questions?
Thank you.
There's a motion on the floor.
Second.
There's a motion. It's been properly seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. This item is approved. As there's no new business before the desk of this board, we will adjourn. The next regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Estimates will occur on Wednesday, November the 20th at 9 a.m. I'd like to thank everyone for joining in. Baltimore, we absolutely love you.
Hi, TV 25, we're ready. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Board of Estimates bid opening for November 6, 2024. We have a few addenda to share today before we get started on openings. The first is for DPW, WC 1449. This is repaving utility cuts and sidewalk restoration at various locations. This bid will now be opened on November 20th, 2024. We also have DPW WC 1354R. This is Ashburton Washwater Lake dredging. This bid will also be opened on November 20th, 2024. And again, that was DPW WC 1354R. And finally, DPW SC 994 for clarifiers and gravity sludge thickeners rehabilitation. That it will now be opened on November 20th, 2024. So up first today, we have a bid for procurement RFQ 450, creating and expanding tree pits. And Casey's going to tell us the news. Oh no, is that not? Hold please. Here, you can probably yell into that while I get it out. I'll just wait. It picks up in both directions. It's going to take a second for it to charge. Okay. But go ahead, because you can probably yell in this one.
We have one bid received for RFQ 0000450. It's from Four Seasons Nursery and Landscape Services, Inc.
Okay.
Address?
We can fill it out later.
Okay, cool. And the grand total of the bid is $3,889,440.
Okay, I'm going to read that number back, 3,889,440.00.
That's correct.
How many copies do we have? I just
We
wanna know
have
so we keep that straight.
one copy.
One copy. Great. Okay, that was Four Seasons Nursery and Landscape Services for $3,889,440.00. And that's our only bidder.
Correct.
And that was our only bidder for RFQ 450, creating and expanding tree pits.
All right. Excuse me.
Up next, we have for Bureau of Procurement RFQ 579, electrical services, 600 volts and under.
Yes. We have two bids for this one. The first one is from Call Me Electrical Company Incorporated. And we have two duplicates.
Thank you.
And the total bid price is $1,529,100.
That number was 1,529,100.00.
That is correct.
That was Kami Electrical Company, Inc. for $1,529,100.00.
Okay, the second bid is from JCM Control Systems Incorporated. And the total bid price is $1,651,500.
That number was 1,651,500.00.
That's correct, and we have one copy.
Thank you. That was JCM Control Systems, Inc. for $1,651,500.00. And that was our final of two bidders?
Yes, ma'am.
For RFQ 579, electrical services, 600 volts and under. Hang on 1 second, I'm skipping over the one that didn't have ads. Up next, we have for the Bureau of Procurement, RFQ 646. This is for brass fittings.
Wait, you skipped over 632.
Oh, did I?
Yes.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
632. Oh, yeah. Integrated pest control?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Sorry about that. I'm jumping ahead. I was so eager. Bureau of Procurement, RFQ 632. This is for integrated. Oh, it's not picking me up. Looks like it is. Thank you. This is for Bureau of Procurement, RFQ 632, integrated pest control. It says in parentheses this is a rebid.
Yes.
And I think this might be an itemized also.
Yes.
Correct, which means you'll just be hearing the name of the proposer, not any specific pricing, because that is reviewed by the agency. Go ahead, Case.
We have one bidder for this item, Pestmaster Services of DC/MD/VA.
Okay.
And I'll give you the address since we're here.
Okay.
10809 North Keys Road.
Is that Keys with no
Keys
E?
like Keys like Key West.
EYES?
Yes.
Okay. North Keys Road.
Brandywine, Maryland. 20613.
Got it. That was Pestmaster Services of DC, Maryland, and Virginia. And was that our only bidder?
Yep. The address was 10809.
Oops. Oh, you're correcting me because you're looking at that.
I know, in a
That's
very
very
sci-fi
tricky.
way.
Yeah, sorry about that. Okay, got it. Pestmaster Services of DC, Maryland, and Virginia, and that was our only bidder for RFQ 632, Integrated Pest Control.
Correct. And they have 2 duplicates.
Thank you. And then I have next RFQ 646. Yes, for brass fittings. And I don't have any of the bidders' names from the envelopes on this one, so I'll be typing them as we go. Yes.
Okay.
This is RFQ 646, brass fittings, and up first, Casey.
Up first, we have Core and Main LP. Main as in Main Street, not the state.
And this one did not
And
require
I
a
bel-
bid bond, in spite of what the
It did
form
not.
says.
Let's just do a double check through this lovely binder.
And this is also an itemized, correct?
Correct, itemized and does not require a bond to our knowledge. I can give you the address while we're here.
Okay.
2002 Bethel Road, Suite 101, Finksburg, Maryland, 21048.
Got it. And how many copies do we have?
We have
Is that the binder, the one?
Yeah,
is
it's the
that-
binder
I
one.
think all their copies are digital, maybe, on the thumb drives or something?
Yeah, that might be it.
There's like 2 or 3 of them in there. That might have been the only way they gave us copies.
Yeah, I think there's 3 copies.
Okay. Okay, that was Core and Main LLP. And this again is an itemized bid, so we won't be reading totals. The agency will review price lists. Up next.
I'm sorry, trying to find the one we marked. Okay, this one is from L/B Water Service, Inc. Their address is 593 South High Street in Selinsgrove, Selinsgrove, Pennsylvania, 17870.
Okay. That was L/B Water Service, Inc.?
Yes. And they have provided, sorry, it all fell apart. So 3 copies.
How many? I'm sorry.
I think it's 3. Oh, yes, they're right here. Yeah, 3 big copies.
Okay, thank you.
And that's all we have for that one.
There's not a third for brass fittings? I think there's a third, because I sliced those open. So the binder was one, the
Apologies, I conflated the two, so can you erase the last one and we're gonna repeat it?
okay, so we have Core and Main LLP. We have LB Water
We-
Service, Inc.
He's got,
I think those 3 envelopes are
Yeah.
copies that don't go with the binder.
this is for that's LB.
It
Oh,
should-
this was the one that was in the brown packaging?
It's,
Yes.
okay. We're getting help from our studio audience.
you.
Thank you.
Sorry, I
It's
think
for-
that packaging
Is that one
threw
for
us off.
Ferguson?
What'd you say?
Is that Ferguson?
This one is Ferguson.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pull this one in there.
Okay. We'll read through the whole list to make sure everybody hears clearly.
Okay, so this one, this bid is from Ferguson Enterprise LLC. The address is 12500 Jefferson Avenue, Newport News, Virginia, 23602.
23602. And can you tell how many copies? We can
Alright.
re-verify after to make sure I have these right.
This one is-
for a record.
They're all marked original, not duplicate.
That's okay, they're duplicates.
So there are.
How many do we have?
Two. There are 3 additionals.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so, and that's our final, because I
Yes.
think we only opened 3, okay.
Yeah.
So we have 3 bidders, Core and Main LLP, LB Water Service, Inc., and Ferguson Enterprise LLC. And those are the 3 respondents to an itemized bid for RFQ 646 for brass fittings.
All right. Next one's part, please.
Okay. This is RFQ 650 for the Bureau of Procurement for the management of parking garages, groups 1, 2, 3, and 4. These are Part As, which are qualifications, which means we will only be listing those who have given us proposals, no pricing associated. And up first, we have,
Up first, we have Laz Parking, Mid-Atlantic LLC. The address is 2000 M Street Northwest, Suite 500, Washington, D.C.
did you say Suite 500? I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Washington, D.C. 20036.
Okay. And how many copies, Case? Thank you.
Okay. Next, we have PMS, Parking Incorporated. Very tired, the accent's gonna come out. Parking Incorporated. I do not have their address in front of me, but we can
That's
add
okay.
it
We can
later.
add that
And they
later.
have 3 duplicates.
Thank you. That was PMS Parking, Inc.
Okay. Last we have SB plus parking services.
The word plus or the symbol?
The symbol.
Okay. Parking services?
Yep. Address is 36 South Charles Suite, South Charles Street, Suite 1515A, Baltimore, Maryland. The zip code is 21201 because it's down the street, but the 1 is left off on the bid, but we
And we
will allow them
have,
that.
how many copies?
We have 3 copies.
Was that our final one for this?
Yes, ma'am.
So that was 3 bidders for RFQ 650, and those bidders were Laz Parking Mid-Atlantic LLC, PMS Parking Inc., and SB Plus Parking Services. And again, that was for RFQ 650, Management of Parking Garages, Groups 1, 2, 3, and 4. And this was a Part A, qualifications opening only, pricing to be opened at a later date to be announced.
Cool. Last one.
And then the last one today is for Public Works, and it's SC 985. You have a little asterisk there. Does that mean something
It was,
to me?
it had an addenda, so it was moved from a previous date.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. And this is for rehabilitation of high-level interceptor.
All right. The first one we have is from Michel's Trenchless Inc. MICHELS Trenchless.
Trenchless?
Yeah. TRENCHLESS Inc. The address is 817 Main Street, P.O. Box 128, Brownsville, Wisconsin.
Brownsville?
Brownsville.
Brownsville.
Wisconsin 53006.
53066?
Yeah.
Is that what you said?
53006. Okay. Their total bid amount is $59,996,077.00.
Okay, do we have a bid bond? For some reason, I'm going to need you to read the number to me again because the form will not let me put a number of that size in. Can you please read that to me again?
Yes.
And you might see it just in a weird place on this form, so I can get it in here. 59, comma.
Yep, sorry, I'm looking for the bond, Ken. Did you find the bond on this?
Yeah. It should have a sticky thing on it. Aren't you looking at it? That's the second page of it. Look at the page ahead. That's just the signature page. That should be the
Oh,
bond.
sorry. Yes, it is.
That's
All right,
okay.
so we have a bid bond, and I'll reread the
Sorry about that.
number.
I don't want to fix this now while we're live.
Yep.
It's 59, comma.
59,996,077.
Okay. That was 59,996,077.00.
Correct.
Okay, that was Michael's, thank you. Trenchless Inc. for $59,996,077.00.
Let's go. All right. Okay, and our next bid is from Spinello Companies. Excuse me, 35 East Biddle Street, Baltimore, Maryland, 21213. Their total bid is $56,593,300 and no cents.
Okay, that number was 56,593,300.00.
Correct?
And do we have a bid bond?
Okay, triple check.
I think we do. 'Cause
I think we do. I just
I
have it on
marked
the
it.
page. Yes, we do.
Okay. And do we have any other bidders for this?
Nope, that's it.
Okay. That was our final of 2 bidders for contract number SC 985, rehabilitation of the high-level interceptor. And I think that is our last one today, right? Okay, so that's our last opening for today. For folks who might not be aware, we typically have these bid sheets ready and posted to the website by close of business today, but often much earlier. So please check there if you want to see the written tab sheets. And otherwise, we will be opening bids again on November 20th, 2024. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in, and thank you, TV 25.